It is the technology show, and we translate geek into regular speak. I'm Brett Levy. I'm your host this week. Now, if you're watching the background, you can see I'm back in Cupertino, California. Have been there for a while. I thought I'd just stay in the afterglow of the Wonderlust event. But if you're seeing something to do with Apple or Apple facilities, then it can only mean one thing. And it'll probably be the right time to actually click this button here and bring in the number one Apple fan in Australia. Alex, I'm always going to give you that status, mate. I have to. One, you've been around longer than me here in the tech world, so straight away, there it is. But two, I thought I know a lot about the product, but I know you know more. So I'm going to give you the number one. But for all those that are listening, they can't see Alex. Alex, well, introduce yourself, mate, because there was a change.
Yeah, I'm a technology journalist. My first computer I got in 1979 when I was 4.5 years old. At the time, you could buy the Apple One as a kit. You could buy the Commodore PET that was in the era of Buck Rogers in the 25th century.
Yeah.
My father bought me an American computer called the XD Sorcerer. It ran BASIC, it ran CP/M, and that was 2-3 years before the IBM PC. So I've been using computers now for a very long time. My second computer, I think, was an Apple II. And then I went straight into the world of DOS and Windows, and I remember using Windows 1, and I had an Amiga, which had the graphical user interface. And I never actually was into the Mac. But I got an iPhone in 2007, about a month after their first launch. I got my first Mac in 2011, which was I was really excited by it. It was fine, Mac. I mean, I'd borrowed them before from Apple, but I was never really into it. But I discovered once you use Mac as your primary computer, well, once you use Mac, you never
don't go back. Alex, I'm seeing a little bit of a fuzziness on your camera. I don't know if it's just the internet connectivity, but there it's stabilizing a bit. So thank you. My story in tech love affair, I think, started pretty similar. I had the Commodore 64. In fact, no, I had the Sinclair Spectrum Z12, that little thing.
Z12, not even the ZX80.
No, it was Z12. So I must have been about 7, something like that. Or maybe it was ZX80. I don't know. It was a long time, 6-7 years old. It's like in the days when there was only black and white. There was no color, right? According to my son. He said that to me a little while ago. He said, when you were young, did you have color? I'm like, really? Are you talking about the world? Or anyway. So back to the technology show. As I said in the introduction, if you hear, it means that Apple did something awesome. I mean, Apple often does and always does something awesome, but this is like a habit and ritual for us. I actually had someone reach out on LinkedIn and say, are you doing an Apple show? And I'm like, I'm doing an Apple show. I'm always going to do an Apple show. So we're doing the Apple show. I haven't got slides. I don't need slides. I think what I'm going to do for people that are listening is Apple last week, in fact, it's a week. It was last week, Wednesday, our time in Australia, announced their new toys. As all the rumors were going around, most of the components of the rumors were true. We got the new iPhone 15 and 15 Pro. It did come with a USB-C port, and we'll talk about that now, and a new or modified chassis, so it doesn't look the same as the 12, 13, 14 with new materials. We got super exciting new watches as well, both the Watch Series 9 and the new Ultra 2. There was a little bit of an update on AirPods, but I think also the big thing was iOS 17 and the fact that today, I think it comes out today.
Yesterday. Well, it came out yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, well, I think yesterday America, which is out today, right? Like
Monday in America.
Really?
And it was yesterday because I downloaded it yesterday on one of my devices. But also iPad OS 17 launched, as did Watch OS 10. And next week we'll have Mac OS Sonoma.
That's
an
exciting.
Also tvOS and HomePod.
I was going to say, normally that all starts to fall through. So I think I'm not worried about orders. I think the most important one, and I'm also conscious of time. So if we ran in time, I'd hate to have not done justice to the iPhone 15 family that we now have. So 4 new devices were launched: the iPhone 15, the iPhone 15 Plus, which is the bigger one, the iPhone 15 Pro, and the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which is the bigger one. I'm going to hand it over to you for your first takes on it. I mean, I've got some opinions of what I thought and what I liked and what I didn't like. There's only one thing I didn't like. I'll get to that later. what was your view?
Sure. Well, let me just give you the very brief overview to start with. And also, if you go to techadvice.life, Life, I have an article on this. I have a breakdown of all the different features. I have the links to all of the videos that Apple has at youtube.com/Apple, although you sort of have to look for them there. I've put them all on one page, the keynote and the various product breakdowns that they've issued. But the short version is that the event was great. I mean, the camera advancements were long overdue, with the zoom finally being here, albeit only 5 times optical zoom, not the 10 times that you see on Samsung's. Although some say that the 10 times wasn't as good, and there's a rumor that Samsung is going to go back to 5 times next year. I don't know how true that is. We have a faster chip in the watches at long last, after 3 or 4 years. Yep. Although, frankly, Apple's chip, even though it wasn't updated in 2 or 3 years until this year, it was still faster than the competition. And on the Pro and Pro Max models, we finally have not just USB-C, as you have on the 15 range, but you have USB-C 3.2, capable of going up to 10 gigabits in speed, which is
big.
And more than, I think it's 80 times faster than the 480 megabits of USB 2, which is what the standard the standard iPhone 15 and 15 Plus have. There were rumors of an iPhone Ultra that would be a bit bigger, but a lot of people said that's actually coming next year. And looking at it, aside from the colors, you'd be hard pressed to know if there's any difference. You mentioned there was a different case design. Actually, the difference in the case, if you have a protective case, you won't really notice it. The case is slightly rounded at the edges.
Yeah.
But it still looks very similar.
Think about that. So Cade, my son, refused to upgrade to a 12, 13, or 14. He stuck with his 11 up until this point in time because of the case. He says, quote, the iPhone 12, 13, 14, that chassis, gives him bad memories of his iPhone 4. Because he had an iPhone 4 when everyone else had newer phones. You know, the youth of today, right? So he refused to upgrade, and he didn't like that straight-edged. So that little camber that they've put in, I think you're 100% right. Unless you put the two side by side, just at a view, it's still similar, but it has got that slightly softer, I'm actually going to say more feminine, which I'm waiting for all the people out there to go, oh, it's gender biased or whatever it is. It's just softer. They've softened up the hard lines, which I think it does look good. Now Cade won't shut up about when I'm getting him an iPhone 15, so I've told him to get a job. Anyway, the USB-C thing was a long time coming. I mean, the EU've put a lot of pressure on Apple to do it. Personally, I like the concept of USB-C. I've got it on my MacBook. I've got it on most of my peripherals. I'm kind of at the stage in life that I wouldn't buy a peripheral that doesn't have a USB-C unless they've got an incredibly good reason for not doing so. Like sometimes things like space. I reviewed this a few weeks ago. This is the Plaud, and this has a magnetic charger, similar to what I have in my glasses and that as well. You couldn't fit. It's the thickness of a credit card. You couldn't fit any port in there. So I forgive that. But there's no excuse in any other hardware that has a substantial size, in body, that you can't put USB-C. The ability to transfer data like you can with the iPad Pro, bringing that to the iPhone 4, listen to me, I've got 4, bringing it to the iPhone 15 family makes sense. So I'm super, super impressed with everything. I mean, besides the process in which we expect, right? And it's always the same with Mr. Cook. This is the best iPhone we've ever made. And so was last year and the year before. And it is the best. The thing that grates my gears. Now, I know you're probably going to have a defense for this, but this is why you're the number 1 fan and I'm number 2. The thing that simply grates my gears is that they've gone and put a better camera, the lens, on the Plus as they have on the 15 Pro. Now, to substantiate my disdain in this whole thing, I don't like big phones. If I want a big screen, I'm going to carry an iPad mini, or I'm going to carry an iPad. I've got choices, right? Or I'm going to go and buy a Fold. I like the 6.1 or whatever it is inch body that the 12, 13, 14, and 15 have. But I spend the extra money on a Pro because so do you. So I'd spend the money on the extra phone Sorry, on the extra, on the Pro, not the 15. Not because there's anything wrong with the 15 or the 14s or 13s. I want the camera. That is what I want. I do not own a fancy camera. I do not have an SLR. I take a lot of pictures, and I really want the camera. Now I'm sitting there, I'm going, hold on a second. You're telling me that there's better telescopic on the Plus.
The Pro
Plus, sorry, yeah, Pro Max.
That's
a
Pro Max.
So I don't know. Do you agree with me, or am I just being silly?
Look, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I have two Pro Maxes that I'm looking at. One with some notes, and the other one that I'm looking through at you now, rather than the FaceTime camera on my MacBook Air 2022. And apparently, it's because the Tetra Prism lens was a bit too big to put into this. I don't really believe it. I mean, this is a Pro, and I mean, I was surprised that they didn't put the better camera. Apparently, it's coming to the iPhone 16 Pro next year, but will they put a better camera in this iPhone 16 Pro Max? But that's 12 months away. Look, that is an annoying thing, but unfortunately, it's just a fact of life. There's not much you can do about it. With the iPhone Pro 128 gig, the 15 Pro, 128 gig, because the Pro Max only comes in 256 gig. If you want to record ProRes video, you can only do it at 4K and 30 frames per second. If you've got the 256 gig model of the Pro Max, then you can record in 8K. I think it's 8K, but you can record 60 frames per second. But the saving grace of the Pro models is that now you can finally plug in an SSD through a USB cable and record video to an external device. And they showed that in the videos where someone's recording a movie, they can quickly take that drive, plug in a different one, and hand the drive off to somebody else. But it's also good that you can finally use these port replicators with the iPhone. So I can have Ethernet, I can have audio, I can have SD card readers, and USB readers. So it's finally bringing the utility of the USB-C port range to the iPhone series. Unfortunately, it's only USB 2 on the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus. Hopefully next year,
it's still good enough.
It's good enough.
I mean,
it's good enough.
It's good enough unless you were taking 4K or 8K 60 frames video content. That you'll notice the speed difference in transfer if you're doing an on-set shoot, right? But I think for the normal user, and I use the word normal user, the person that opted not to buy a Pro because they didn't want high-end photography, USB 2 is fine. They still transfer their data, and I'm sitting and I'm thinking about the Samsung people going, oh, we had DeX or DeX, whatever it was called, for all those years. Yes, you did, but the one thing about Apple,
nobody uses it.
Correct. We might come late to the party, but we come best dressed, and it's going to work better, and it's just going to do what it needs to do. I just feel that to me was a little bit of a kick in the teeth. That if I want the Rolls Royce, I now have to actually go into a model or form factor that it's not my choice. There's nothing I don't love about my iPhone. I don't want to be in a position where I'm holding the device and going, I don't love this. Like it's too big.
Well, one of the reasons why people don't like the iPhone 15 Plus Pro Max because of the size is because it's big. But the ultimate answer to that is to get a magnetic pop socket. So you get the magnetic pop socket, you stick it onto the back of your phone, and off you go. And I even have a Google Pixel 7 here, and I have a pop socket clone that I got from Temu on the back of it. And how did I attach a magnetic pop socket clone onto the back of my iPhone? Well, you can buy these rings. In fact, this one is like $13. It comes with one of these rings. And I put one on the inside of the case, and I put one on the outside. And in fact, the magnetism is quite strong. So you can retrofit your older devices.
I still don't want the bigger.
To have it if you want.
The problem is I can't put it in my front pocket. It's the size. It's not the holding of the phone.
You must have small front pockets because I do that all the time.
Buy some new pants. It's just a personal gripe. As I said, there would have been method in their madness. I can't love everything all the time. And people say to me, oh, you're just such a fanboy. You don't know what to do. I'm putting it out there. I'm disappointed. Like, it's not
I read the same thing on Twitter. Other people were saying the same thing. They love the Pro. They love the smaller size. They love the pocketability. And they're annoyed that it has But look, if you're somebody that upgrades your phone every year because you've got plenty of money, or B, like me, you go through your phone company and just you pay it off. But you take the 3-year plan because they offer it, but you upgrade every year because you pay the upgrade and protect fee to do that. Then it's not so much of a big deal. For a year, you won't have 5 times optical zoom. You just have the 3. But it's not. So it's not the end of the world. And really, if you're getting the Pro, you're getting it because of the A17 Pro processor, and you're getting it because you just want the best performance, and you do want that zoom lens. On the iPhone 15 and 15 Plus, you're going from the A15 to the A16 Bionic, so you do get a faster processor, but unfortunately, it's last year's from the iPhone 14
They always
Pro.
do that though, right? Like the 12 Pro became the 13. It seems to move that way. But I mean,
well, it doesn't move that way now. But you get the dynamic island, which is the big improvement. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of dynamic island.
I also am. I do like that.
Yeah, you get to see information on the screen when you need it. It's there. How many minutes away is your Uber? Have you got a timer going? Are you listening to audio? Have you plugged in your AirPods? Is your battery running flat? You get to see little bits of information that just pop up, just bubble up.
Well, I'm looking at mine now. There's a timer going. I can see a little timer. And the timer
is going in real time.
It's
not just a logo, and it's real time.
So I'm not upset. I don't think it was one of those, do I need the phone? I think they have done something different. The case is beautiful. The titanium material, that's another thing for the people that didn't like the weight of the Pro Plus or Pro Max rather. Titanium makes a difference. So although the form factor is big, it doesn't weigh a lot. It weighs substantially less.
It's 19 grams. It's not. I mean, 19 grams. Apparently, it feels lighter. From people that have felt it, it feels lighter than the 19 grams less than it is. I mean, I've noticed every year that the Pro models are getting heavier and heavier. Just remember back to the iPhone 6 days when it was so light that some of them bent in people's pockets. But it's also stronger, and I'm looking forward to that. I mean, with the 15, you also, because you now have the 48 megapixel lens, you now have the 2 times optical zoom equivalent, and because of the tetraprism lens, you have the 7 lens equivalent. Although some people are talking about with the processor, that the processor is so powerful with the A17 Pro that even though there's a slightly bigger battery in the 15 Pro Max compared to the 14 Pro Max, you actually get slightly less battery life because they've really pushed this processor. And another thing in the processor is hardware-based ray tracing. Previously, it was only software-based. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 from last year had hardware-based ray tracing, so Apple was running behind on it. They were supposed to have it last year, according to the reports that I read, but somewhere along the line, one of the developers or designers made some big mistake, which they didn't catch until too late. And the ray tracing that they had included was overheating the processor. So they had to pull it back, scale back, and just have a slightly better version of the A13's GPU. So this year we have ray tracing. If you're a gamer, it's great. And one of the big things that made us
get to that as well. Yeah.
You've got truly console level gaming. And now, of course, you've always been able to plug your iPhone into an external monitor, but it's even easier with USB to HDMI, you grab the one of the external gaming controls, or you buy one of those ones that makes it look like a Switch, and you have a real competitor to the Switch or to the Asus Ally.
I mean, the hardware has always been ready, and even if we start talking about MacBooks, I mean, for the last 3 years, a MacBook would play a game better than any Windows machine. It's the publishers, unfortunately, that don't make their games available. I'm talking about PC, but in phone and in mobile, I mean, if you watch the event, and I think, Alex, you and I both share the view here, anyone interested in technology, watch keynotes. Like, they're the most brilliant presentations, right? Besides learning about the tech, they do cool shit.
It's a free glimpse. It's a time machine into the future. It's a free glimpse.
A nice description,
yes, it's a giant ad. It's a giant ad. Yes, no one's questioning that it's not a giant ad. But they do a fantastic job. And I mean, watch the keynote for WWDC earlier this year. You get to see all of the iPhone 17 features. And this is the other important point I want to make.
Coming through.
You don't have to upgrade if you've got an iPhone 10R or better, or the iPhone SE 20, I think you can still upgrade to iOS 17. Apple Watch Series 4 and upwards, you can upgrade to WatchOS 10. And several Mac OS, several generations behind, you can still upgrade. So, if you're not, you don't want to upgrade, don't. You're still going to get all the cool features of iOS 17. And it'll feel like a new phone, feel like a better phone. So, Apple also did make a big song and dance about their environmental credentials. There's a great little video.
That was quite good.
Playing Mother Nature, and they're grilling.
That was a great piece of content. So I'm not going to spoil it. I mean, the Mother Nature's there, but it was good. It was fun, but they actually got a message across, and I think well done to them. And I think well done to them also on their milestones, right? On the sustainability.
Absolutely.
Not being a company that takes. They are giving back. So
one of the things that Mother Nature said in the thing was that all these companies are talking about 2050, 50 years down the track. Apple can point to genuine milestones that it has been able to achieve with solar panels, with reducing the size of the Apple Watch packaging, with all sorts of things that, when you multiply it by hundreds of millions of units being sold, do make an actionable difference. One of the things, though, that was unusual, I noticed straight away, that in that particular little skit that they had, that little cool video, which is available to watch separately. Again, I've got it on my site, but it's also part of the keynote. They said they wanted to remove all carbon dioxide from planet Earth. Now, somebody somewhere didn't get the message that if there's no carbon dioxide on planet Earth,
there's no trees.
Humans will die. There's no trees. Humanity will perish. I mean, it's impossible to remove all carbon dioxide from planet Earth. Because
I think they were referring to our emitted carbons. They left out that word, right? But
well, they shouldn't have said that, because it's. I mean, it's. I saw some people jump on it and say Apple wants to, is advocating for the destruction of all life on human Earth, which is obviously wrong. They're not. They need customers. But, trees are not going to buy our phones.
I'm worried about time, but I do want to jump onto the watch because there's some super cool features, and I still want to chat iOS 17 as well, because I know you always have tips, and I have a question about iOS 17, or I have a viewpoint on iOS updates, which we'll save for last. So Apple Watch Series 9, was there a new SE? No, they've kept the SE watch.
There wasn't. It was the SE that was the same.
SE still SE, and then there's Series 9 with cellular or just GPS, and then there was Ultra 2. That was the announcement
with cellular. Now the two big takeaways. The Watch Series 9 and the Ultra 2 both have a new S9 SiP, system in a package. And that is the chip. So it's a faster chip. They didn't give any specs as to how much faster it was, but it's faster. All the animations are quicker. Everything's better in that regard. And it's the first time in, I think, 3 years they've done it. Then, this is important. The S9 has a maximum 2,000 nits of outdoor brightness in the sunshine. Now, I forget how bright the previous one was, but they said it's brighter. And then the Ultra 2 can go to 3,000 nits. So that's even brighter still than the previous one. Now, look, the biggest changes this year is really in WatchOS 10. They've changed how, instead of swiping up to get the control center, you now have to push the button on the side to get the control center. Instead of swiping left and right on the main screen to flick between different watch faces, you now have to hold your finger on the screen and it pops up with the different watch faces. People may have noticed that sometimes the control panel is swiped up or you change to a different watch face without intending for that to happen. So now they've made it so that you choose a watch face, you stay. And I know that my mother, she likes to wear the watch on the inside, but whether she wears the watch on the inside of her wrist or the outside, she will just by doing stuff and not realizing it, she will swipe up the control center and she'll put the phone on plane mode. And then when I try to call her and she hasn't got a phone with her, so this is now going to be much harder to achieve because you need to physically push the button. So there's little changes here and there, but the biggest ones are a faster chip and the brightness of the screen. I mean, one other thing just...
Well, I've put that on the scroller there. You see that 1,000 versus 2,000 nits. So it's 100%.
Yeah, there we go. And that's very important.
You left with something very important on the iPhone. And I know we're on watch.
I was about to say that. I was about to say what was important on the iPhone. Well, yeah, the action button on the side. So that wasn't what I was going to say, but yeah, the action button, instead of being a mute switch,
Yeah.
you can now push the button. Now the default press is still mute and unmute, but you can push it and hold it, and then a UI comes up on the screen. You can have it turn the torch on and off, turn the camera on and off, run a shortcut, do various things. And when you tap and hold it, you can actually get an interface on the screen that you can swipe through these different actions that it can do. So that's very cool. But also in the US, only in the US at the moment, if you're out of cellular range and you're relying on emergency SOS, which has been a great feature, saved many people from crazy situations, you can now also get free for 2 years AAA roadside assistance. So that's like NRMA in Australia or RACQ in Queensland, RACV in Victoria. And if you're in mobile range and you haven't got RAC and AAA, I think you'll have to pay for it. But if you're outside of mobile range, well, and you're in your car, well, that's another handy little feature, which I hope they replicate in other parts of the world.
I'm sure they will. I must say, I've always found that little switch a waste of time. So it's so good that they've actually given me choices to do something with it.
It's an extra button,
For me, it's always on silent. I have my watch ringing if I want sound. So it's a button I don't use. So now I can actually use it.
And to be able to tap, double tap, or triple tap, that never works for me because well, what happens is that, like, I have it for the torch, but then because just you're walking or something, the torch will come on by itself. Then I often have the pop socket. Now I know it's magnetic, which I can remove, and you can tap this to turn things on, but it's inconsistent. And so
my problem is I listen to music and I tap to the song. So I'm holding my phone and I'm doing this. My son and I both do this. So the thing's going on, it drives me nuts. Right. So back to watches.
I have that off. Yes.
Yeah, mine's off as well. It's nice if you want it, but it's off. So we ascertained the nits is double, which makes a huge difference, right? Now, when he presented this, I thought, really? Like, that's so novel. And then I started thinking about all the times I would actually use this feature. I'm talking about tap back or squeeze. What do they call it? Tap.
Well, just
tap
look,
to something.
One thing. So you can double tap to answer the phone, double tap to hang up, double
so for
tap
people listening, we're sitting here tapping our fingers. We're talking about our forefinger,
our index finger, and our thumb.
Yeah.
And this is the same gesture that you use on Apple Vision Pro. Now, some people watching or listening will say, well, hang on, I can already do that on my existing Apple Watch if I set up the feature inside of accessibility. And so, yes, if you've got an existing Apple Watch and you want the ability to double tap with your finger or clench your fist once or double clench twice, you can get it to do various things like go back to the home screen, double clench to bring up Apple Pay, pinch once to select something, double pinch to go back. So you don't have to get a new Apple Watch to do this. It's already on Apple Watch, WatchOS 9, and it's already on WatchOS 10. But I think what they're doing is they're making it a feature that doesn't have to have accessibility turned on.
Correct.
Now, do the other features work on Series 9 or Ultra Watch 2? I don't know. It might just be the pinch and double pinch that doesn't require accessibility to be turned on. But if you turn accessibility on, when you lift the watch, when you lift it up, you'll see this blue ring that appears. See, there was a blue ring there for a half second. When I lift it, you can see a blue ring around it. And that blue ring means you have the accessibility features on. So my assumption is that these, at least the pinch or double pinch, is activated without having to have accessibility on. And in the video, they did show how it was extremely useful. You're holding your child, you're holding a cup of coffee, you're holding some.
That's what I'm saying. I looked at this and I thought, and then like today, I got out of my car. I had my bottle of water in my hand and the car key in my other hand, and I had my iPad in its folio pack under my arm. So I was full, and my phone rang. So what do? I use my nose to answer it.
Yeah, I've tried that. It's annoying.
It looks weird as well.
You could
but I could have done that. Yeah, I could have done that. So,
but you can do that right now. Switch that on, go to accessibility after this call and try it, because it's very handy. I use it all the time now, and I love it. And it's great that Apple's made it a standard feature. And this is yet another example of how Apple thinks of these little things that the competitors will soon copy. But why didn't the competitors think of it in the first place? I mean, another really cool feature of iOS 17, when you're making a FaceTime call, you can make the love heart symbol with both of your hands, and you'll see
Yes,
love
that's
hearts
right.
appearing out of your hands. You can put 2 thumbs up and have fireworks. There's various things you can do to have balloons and have all these cool effects. And it's like, how come nobody else ever thought of that? I mean, it's such an obvious thing. And I mean, another cool thing with the FaceTime calls is that you can now make FaceTime calls over TV OS if you've updated it. And you have one of the little MagSafe phone stands, which are widely available. You see them on Temu.
I've
And
got
all
mine
the
on one
places.
as we speak. You just put it there. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
You
look,
can get
I
it
mean,
for $20.
it
And
was
then you can
really
make
a
a phone
good
call
show.
through your TV. Yeah.
Now
It
let's
was.
talk about. So there was Series 9. I didn't find much else between Series 8 and Series 9. Like the hardware, the nits was a big thing.
No.
The luminance.
Yeah, there wasn't a huge amount of changes.
There wasn't much of a change from the sensors, what they can and can't do. But I think anyone that was on a Series 7 or Series 6 that was starting to see battery deterioration or contemplating upgrading, it's a good upgrade. I think the 2-year cycle on watches is something that's become pretty normal. You know, we don't see major jumps, and I think Apple's quite clever like that as well. Is that they don't need to alienate the users by giving them huge feature updates. Ultra 2 was also, I mean, they increased the battery life, they increased the screen
brightness, not size, just brightness.
So and that went to 3,000 nits, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So that's really bright. That's incredible.
There's only so much that Apple has to do on a year-by-year basis. They don't, because they're already so far ahead of the competition. So, I mean, there are journalists who are like, oh, iPhone 14 Pro Max users have no need to upgrade to the iPhone 15 Pro. I agree. If you're somebody who, I mean, I'm upgrading year by year because it's part of my plan. I can do it. I'm on
but you're in the industry,
and it's part of my job. That's right.
Yeah,
part of my job. Also, Apple lends me, the iPhones every year, so I have multiple phones, and that's just what I do. But the average person hangs on to it for 2 to 5 years. And some people, I know people still using an iPhone 4 to this day. I mean,
I haven't seen one. Like, I'm going to buy one for my son. I'm going to buy one for my son. Here's your new phone, mate. Now, let's talk. I want you to answer something for me on the Watch OS. Okay.
Sure.
So we're talking about the stacks. Now, again, my hands are going wild while I talk. It's probably better to listen to my show than watch my show if you get put off by strobing lights or flashing hands. The stack that they were talking about is at the bottom, the information stack. Where's that difference? Where's that difference? So I said that for the listeners, your information comes up at the bottom and it kind of stacks like it does on your iPhone. How does that work, or where's the big differential on that, which is software-based, not hardware-based?
So it's very similar to the Siri watch face that was launched several years ago. If you're using the Siri watch face, and you can basically scroll through a series of widgets, and this will show you your running timer or the news or whatever the most important thing is, your upcoming appointments. And at the very top, and this is upside down for people who are watching it, but if I scroll, you can see there's a clock, there's a time and date, and I have some sort of calendar appointment, and I've got a series of little cards that are giving me, the weather and other information. So again, it's very similar to the Siri watch face. So there's 2 ways of accessing this. One, you can swipe up from the bottom. Now that used to be the action to bring up the control center, but now it's the action to bring up useful bits of information. Like I will often have a timer. At the moment, I'm on a special diet and I've got to eat every 2.5 to 3 hours. So I'll put a timer on and I can just swipe up or scroll up with a digital crown to see how much time I have left. Very handy, because in the past, I would have had to have, spoken to Siri and asked it what my most recent, show me the timer, or I would have had to have, been on a watch face where I could tap the timer. Now it's so much more useful. And I can either, scroll the digital crown and just swipe up. And so that little.
Where's the control center gone now? Is that from the top down?
Well, as I was saying, no. From the top down, it still brings up your recent messages like you had before. But the control center is now by pushing the button on the side. So you've got to push the long button at the bottom. You push the long button at the bottom, and that's what brings up the control center. So as I was saying earlier in the show, the instance of your, brushing against something and swiping up the control center and then putting your watch on plane mode or turning off Wi-Fi or doing something, it's almost going to be non-existent. So they've really thought about how you interact with the watch and what are the accidental things you do. I often used to see, even though I have my jacket sleeve over my watch quite often, suddenly I look at my watch and I'm on a different watch face. And that's because you used to be able to swipe left or right. And it's annoying. You're on a watch face for a reason. So now you have to, and I'm showing this on the screen, sorry for the people listening on the podcast, but you have to physically hold the screen like you did before to be able to go into the various
wallpapers. It's exactly the same.
It's exactly the same. Yeah. Now, already on your current WatchOS 9 or earlier, you can tap and hold the screen to bring up the watch faces where you can add new ones or edit them. So it's actually exactly the same, long press as before. But this time, this is how you change the watch face. So you've got to, with intention, tap and hold the screen.
Not
then
just the accidental. Yeah, no, it's good.
So they've matured it, they've refined it. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but then once you're used to it, including the pinch and double pinch, the accessibility gestures, it's like, wow, it's really cool.
Makes sense.
The original accessibility gesture, if you watch the video that Apple has on its website, it is of a woman whose arm is amputated at the elbow. So she cannot physically, with her other hand, tap anything on the Apple Watch. So, even though she had an Apple Watch, she was forced to use all the gestures to interact with it, which is incredible. I mean, that Apple thinks
that she could.
Instigates them so well. Yeah. And now it's open to everybody. It always was, but now it's advertised as a feature for all. So very, very cool. If you haven't already updated your watch, do it after this show.
This is why we do the show, because there's always these nuggets of information. Thank you. Now, I want to finish off the show on iOS 17, but before we do, there was only a slight announcement. AirPods have now got USB-C, so you're not using the Lightning port. There wasn't really much.
Well, what's happening there with the USB-C? So I want to show you one of the features on the iOS 17 in a second. One of the things you can now do is you can plug the USB-C cable into the bottom of an iPhone 15 or Pro, and you can use the other side of it on your. And this is still the Lightning AirPods Pro, but you can plug the cable from the iPhone into here, so you can charge your devices from your phone, which you couldn't do before because you would have needed Lightning to Lightning, and such a cable probably exists somewhere, but it's not designed for charging. You have more power output from your USB-C port, and the USB-C version of the AirPods Pro 2 will give you lossless audio, but only in one scenario. That's when you're using it in conjunction with an Apple Vision Pro. Otherwise, at least yet, you won't get lossless audio listening to Apple Music or other streaming media services, which people have complained about, but it is what it is. But yes, iOS 17. So the number one feature I want to show you, you can hear this cool sound. It's when you hold two iPhones together, you will get this cool effect, and you can hear that little woo sound. Yeah. And so what I've just done is I've connected both iPhones together, and because they've got the same Apple ID, they're connected so I can transfer photos. But if you've got an iPhone and I've got an iPhone, and we're both on iOS 17, and we want to swap our contact card, and we hold both phones together, and boom, and it transfers across. Now you can turn that off. You don't have to have it switched on, but it's like the old beaming that you could do on the past.
Yeah, I remember that.
Years ago.
You could beam a contact card across.
Cool. Yeah. Now, one of the features of iOS 17 that's been delayed, there's a couple there. One's called Journal, where it will take your photos and it'll give you the ability to do journaling for your gratitude or daily life. It's kind of like a diary. That's been delayed. Another awesomely cool feature that I wish was available now, but has been delayed, is the ability to airdrop to somebody else. But if I'm often filming somebody's event, and it's an hour-long event, and I'll have a file that's 5.9 gigabytes or something. It's a big file. And normally, if the PR person is there, I can just send them the video for their own records. But sometimes you're somewhere, you want to send somebody something, but you can't hang around for 5 or 10 minutes whilst it's transferring. I mean, it's usually pretty quick, but sometimes it takes a while. So the feature that has been delayed, it's not available now, it's coming in the next month or two, is the ability to complete that transfer of information over the internet. So you can start the transfer, walk away, and as long as you both have iCloud on, it'll continue sending. I mean, yes, it will be chewing through your data. So, if you've got 5.9 gigabyte video you're sending, it'll chew through 5.9 gigabytes of your data and the other person's data. But, that's, at least you can do that now. And that's a cool feature that I really enjoy. When you call somebody, you'll now see a contact screen. So all the people you call on Android or on Android that called you, you'll just see their initials. You won't see a contact screen. Little customization. The Apple in its WWDC demo of iOS 17, again, you should watch it. Very cool. They also never used the word AI, not once, but they did talk about how the keyboard had a transformer, which is the T in GPT, generative pre-trained transformer, had a transformer model that was much more intelligent about the autocorrect. So those auto corrections that are mind-numbingly stupid, you should see fewer of those with the iOS 17. I haven't noticed it being bad. I mean, I never really noticed it being bad before, but occasionally you did, and I would say, damn you, autocorrect, like that famous website. But it does seem to be better. And, you really, again, go to the Apple's website. If you go to the iOS page, and the iPad page, and the WatchOS page, there's now a PDF you can download with all of the features. It's like 2 or 3 pages of all the new features that are there. There are tons of new features. I can't remember them all. But if you're just somebody, if you've been in a coma for the last year and only used iOS 16 for a few weeks, well, no, you're not going to be in for a shock. It's largely the same. It looks the same, but when you dig deeper, you will find that in messages, when you tap on the plus symbol, you now have a much more concise and better list of the different stickers and other things you can send.
That was the other thing. You've got where you can put your stickers anywhere, so you can put them all over. You've got the camera feature where you can present in front. So it puts you in front of the content. So like now, if I have content, I've got to minimize us and you can look at the content, but I can move myself around. The only thing so here's the question I wanted to ask you, right? And there's no right or wrong here. It's an opinion. I never upgrade my operating system until 0.1. So it's 17.003 or 02 or whatever it is at the moment.
Well, it's 17.0. We're not even at 17.1.
And next week will be 0.0 something. I never upgrade to 0.1. I find 0.1 is when stability is there and everything's doing what it needs to do. I know you also have separate devices like I do, and you can play with it on Beta. And for everyone listening as well, please don't put beta software on your primary device. It can bug out. It's not the product's fault. That's what it is. So if you want to play on a secondary device. But I know you do that. I do that too. But you've upgraded already, right? Your primary phone, you're running 17.
I waited until public beta 4 before I put it on my primary device. But I had from developer beta 1, I had it on a secondary phone. And I could see the bugs, and I was following Reddit and the Mac rumors forums, where people were talking about their experiences. And it was just too buggy for me to want to go with on a regular device. So I didn't do that. But when public beta 4 came along, that was pretty much smooth sailing by that point. And that's when I took the plunge on my primary device. But I still had another device that I kept on iOS 16.6 because that was the device I was doing Zoom calls with, or that was the device that I was wanted to make sure, because I tried using my iOS 17 public beta 4 device on a Zoom call, and I was doing a radio show where they use Zoom for people to dial in, and there was just some weirdness, there was delays, and so look, definitely, unless you're really technically inclined and love to play with these things, do not ever put betas on your primary device. But I really do believe iOS 17.0 is stable enough for the vast majority of users. If you're using some sort of medical device, then by all means, double check first. Don't just install it. Check to make sure that the apps that you really rely on are ready to go. But in 2023, the vast majority of apps are ready to go because that's what you have the developer beta process period for.
I understand that.
Have been testing it for a long time.
I've had people over the years say to when is the right time to upgrade, and it's
point one. It doesn't
take long to get to point one. It's a month. It's kind of a month, maybe 6 weeks. But
if you really want to be conservative,
when iPhone 15 is available, so the pre-order was last week, deliveries this week, does it come with 17 or does it come with 16.6?
I believe it comes with 17. They've always come, every iPhone of the next generation has always come with a new operating
system. So it does
system.
come with it. Someone said to me, yeah, if it's good enough for the new phone, it should be good. Because I've had people argue this point with me.
No. Look, I've never seen a new iPhone not come with that year's new OS.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. And what Apple does is, like this year, when we got to public beta 4, I think developer beta 6 by that time, we were on a week-to-week update cycle. Because before that, it was every 2 weeks. But when you're on a week-to-week beta update cycle, you know that if something is seriously wrong, you wait 7 days, it'll be fixed because everybody will complain about it and Apple will fix it. And when we got to public beta 6, there was no public beta 7 or whatever it was. If I'm getting that wrong. When we got to the last beta, that was it. And there was no, and what happened was that there was a 2-week wait to the release candidate, which was launched this time last week. And the reason why there's that 2-week wait is because basically in that time, they had finalized the release candidate. They probably give themselves an extra week before they launch it to the public. And in that week, they give that release candidate to Foxconn or whoever it is that's manufacturing the phone to load that version of iOS 17 on all the different devices. So they're pretty much at that point, the release candidate is good to go. They launched it to the public. And if there is some show-stopping bug, I mean, I have seen it where I've received, and like when I got the iPhone 14 Pro Max last year, the one that I purchased from Telstra, when I got it, as part of the turning on process and setting it up and transferring everything across, I had to update it. Because it came with, would have been 16.0 at the time, and I would have already had been on 16.1 or 2 or whatever. So it forces you to, as part of the update process, the setting up process, to update. So that's what happens. They update. But it always comes with the newest version. It never comes with the old version.
Ever. Okay. I think that's pretty much all my. Well, I'm also looking at the time in the show. Watch OS 10 is out now as well. Because now, funny enough, I update straight away. I find my watch as a secondary device. If it bugs out for any reason, don't care. I'll reset it. Here's
something interesting, right? You're still on iOS 16.6.1 on your phone, right? Yeah. But you're on watchOS 10 on your watch.
No, I haven't upgraded my watch yet. I don't think you can until you go to 17.
Well, because you were saying I thought I
would straight away. But I've never. What I'm saying is, from a personal point of view, I don't have a problem upgrading my watch or any peripherals, even iPad. I'd move iPad onto 17, iPad OS 17 before I'd move my phone, just to play. But it's not my primary device. My entire world is on my primary device, so that I've never ever taken a chance. But as you say, the phone would never launch without the new operating system. So therefore, you're going to have, well, let's be honest, millions of devices going into the market that break. So they wouldn't do that. It's in that whole transfer when you're updating that if you haven't backed up properly. And that's the other thing as well, message to everyone listening and watching. Don't upgrade without backups. That should just be like a sticky that you should have somewhere. Everyone gets this, there's an update about, oh, that's nice, bang. And then it cocks out for whatever reason. Internet dropped, phone battery died. I don't know. They're quite good on that. They make sure it's 50%. Whatever the reason is, the tech gods decided to kill your device. And now you're in trouble. You've bricked the phone. You've got nothing to put on. So please always back up. Cop the $2 a month or whatever it is for 50 gigs of iCloud. Send your stuff to the cloud. If it screws out,
you can still back up to your computer.
Yeah, but I'm saying
to have to do it.
Just back it up. Like, so many people I've dealt with come to me and go, "Oh, my phone crashed and I've lost my photos," and then I'm like, "Did you not have a backup?" No, well, we don't. Yeah. I never plugged the phone in, and
don't upgrade. Stolen or something. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna say I do not. I mean, I sometimes use iMazing, or sometimes I back it up. But I have a 1 terabyte phone, and I've got a 1 terabyte SSD on my Mac, so I don't back up to my computer very often or at all. but I do back up to iCloud. I have 2 terabytes of iCloud space. And also now, you can now pay for 6 terabytes of iCloud or 12 terabytes of iCloud. That's going to answer all those people's questions. You say, well, I've got terabytes of photos. Where do I put them? And you can actually increase that to 8 or 16 if you have an Apple One subscription with the family one with 2 terabytes.
That's going to be expensive though. 6 or 12 terabytes is going to be expensive.
It's like $80 or something, $89 a month in Australia for 12 a month, 12 terabytes. And if you have the Apple One family like I do, then that's an extra $42.95 a month. So you're paying like $120, $130 a month to Apple, but you'll get 5 Apple Musics, 5 Apple News subscriptions, 5 Apple Arcade, 5 Apple TV, and you'll get a total of 14 terabytes, which for most people, that's enough. And yes, it's a lot of money to pay, but you'd have to pay that sort of money to Dropbox or somebody else anyway, if you want to have online backups. And then if there's a fire or a flood or something happens, your backup disk is stolen, everything's in the cloud. So it's just one of those things where it's really important to you.
I have what do you call it?
Physical
cloud and physical. Just I got a thumbs up, or we got a thumbs up, I should say. Sorry, from Oreo. I don't know why I can't actually get it to show. Well, thanks, Oreo. Good to see that you're watching the show. We'll have to get you back on as a co-host again soon. Alex, thank you as always. I love the fact that anytime something new comes up from Apple, you're always available. I really do love the show. As I said, we get to geek out about a brand we both love. So yeah, I've got your details up on the screen. It's techadvice.life. That wasn't a typo. .life is a top-level domain. So techadvice.life. Please follow Alex. Listen to a show. I know you've also got a radio show where you also do a guest hosting, I think, Wednesday.
I've got my own show. I'm doing a TNT radio. I'm doing a segment on TNT Radio.live, Live, which is separate to LIFE. Yeah, separate to life. They're 2 separate domains. And that particular, and I can see you've got somebody there, great domainer.
Yep,
and
great domainer.
There, and that shows at 3:45 p.m. To 4 p.m. Normally 3:30 to 4. But I talk tech weekly there, and I've got a show on Tuesday in Canberra. If you go to my website, you can see all the details. I've got a section called Alex on Radio and TV.
Fantastic. Well, as always, thank you. I hope everyone got to learn, and everyone got to learn, and well, there's some new exciting features coming out. So I'm going to say cheers. Thank you very much. I'm going to go into the close of the show. So let's exit out of here quickly. Well, there we go. I'm going to now finally leave California. My job is done. I've reviewed the new wonderful toys from my favorite fruit. That just takes us to one last thing. So until next time, keep your screens clean and your knobs shiny.